Okay, perfect. So starting chapter 10 here, that is ethics here. And let's get a good understanding about this chapter. This chapter is a highly scoring chapter that we can get on top of and have a very strong understanding about this. Okay, starting up with what is business ethics and a good definition of the same. So when we talk about what is business ethics, ethics is the study of right and wrong behavior. Right? What behavior is right, what behavior is wrong. The study of that is called as ethics. And what we are really studying is that how do we apply these ethics to business, right? The business ethics basically applies moral values to commercial decisions. That how can you apply the idea of what is right and what is wrong to commercial decisions? Okay. So business ethics basically applies moral principles to commercial decisions. Okay. It applies moral principles to commercial decision. That is what business application does. It applies moral principles to commercial decision. Next, we are looking into the consequences. Like ethical decisions consider the impact of actions. That when we consider okay, what is ethical, what we are really seeing is the impact of those actions. And then motivation. Honest intentions are important in ethical behavior. So whenever we talk about ethical behavior, honest intentions are very important. Whenever we talk about ethical behavior, honest intentions are very important. Whenever we talk about ethical behavior, honest intentions are very important. Okay, when we talk about ethical behavior, honest intentions are very important. And finally, core values: fairness, accountability, transparency, and respect underpin ethical conduct. Okay, fairness, accountability, transparency, and respect underpin ethical conduct. Okay, they underpin ethical conduct. Okay, what they do is they underpin ethical conduct. Okay, they underpin ethical conduct. What they do is they underpin ethical conduct. First of all, what is ethics definition? Ethics is the study of right and wrong. What we are studying is how do we apply ethics to business. The consequences is that if you don't do business ethically, there would be like fines and reputational damage. However, our focus of study is that ethical decisions considers the impact of actions, that whatever actions we do, what will be the impact of those actions. Motivation, honest intentions are always very important. Whenever you do an ethical behavior, your intentions have to be very honest. And finally, the core values: fairness, accountability, transparency, and respect underpin the ethical conduct. What they do is they underpin the ethical conduct. Okay, what they do is they underpin the ethical conduct. Okay. Ethics is the study of right and wrong behavior. Business ethics applies moral principles to commercial decisions. Ethical decisions consider the impact of actions. Honest intentions are important in ethical behavior. Fairness, accountability, transparency, and respect, they underpin ethical conduct. Okay. So this is about what is business ethics. Okay. This is everything about what is business ethics. Okay. Fairness, accountability, transparency, and respect. Okay. The honest intentions. The consequences. Ethical decisions consider the impact of actions. Business applications. Business ethics applies the moral principles to commercial actions. And finally, ethics definition. Ethics is the study of right and wrong behavior. Okay. What is ethics? Ethics is the study of right and wrong behavior. So all these things come under business ethics. Okay. All these are the areas that come under business ethics. Okay. Next, looking into ethical dilemmas about business functions. Okay. There are some dilemmas, ethical dilemmas, there are some problems. So businesses regularly face a lot of difficult ethical decisions, right? Businesses, it's very difficult sometimes decisions they have to make. So what is the issues? The accounting issues is financial reporting and fraud create ethical challenges. Financial reporting and fraud create ethical challenges. Okay. Financial reporting and fraud, what they do is they create ethical challenges. Okay. What do financial reporting and fraud do? They create ethical challenges. Business functions. Ethical problems occurs across all departments. When we talk about ethical problems, they occur across all departments. Whenever we talk about ethical problems, they occur across all departments, not one department, not two departments, across all departments, there will be ethical problems. Next, competing interest. Managers must balance conflicting stakeholder interest. What managers must do is they must balance conflicting stakeholder interest. What managers must do is they must balance conflicting stakeholder interest. Next is Enron. In the example of Enron, Enron was a company and they demonstrated the consequences of unethical behavior. So it was a very big company, energy company, and it went down very bad, right? And a lot of people lost their job, a lot of shareholder money was lost, a lot of suppliers did not get paid. So it was, really came out as a very bad example for the world. Okay, so Enron demonstrated the consequences. If you don't behave ethically, what can happen? Enron happened because of the unethical behavior. Okay, competing interest. Managers must balance the conflicting stakeholder interest. What managers must do, they must balance the conflicting stakeholder interest. What managers must do is they must balance the conflicting stakeholder interest. Business functions, ethical problems occur across all departments. Ethical problems, they occur across all departments. Accounting issues, financial reporting and fraud, they create ethical challenges. financial reporting and fraud, they create ethical challenges and ethical dilemmas. Businesses regularly face difficult ethical decisions. What businesses do is they regularly face ethical decisions. Okay, what do businesses do? They regularly face difficult ethical decisions. Okay, what businesses do? They regularly face difficult ethical decisions. Accounting issues, financial reporting, and fraud create ethical challenges. Business functions, ethical problems occur across all departments. Competing interests, managers must enable conflicting stakeholder interest. Enron example, Enron was one of those companies that set a very big example for everybody. Let's see, if you don't make a ethical decision, this is what can happen. Okay, so that is about Enron. Looking a little closer look into the dilemmas over here is that firstly, creative accounting, right? They put started doing wrong accounting, bribery, insider trading. They raised some ethical concerns, right? By doing this, they raised some ethical concerns. Sales and marketing, price fixing, misleading, advertising, and spam challenge the ethical standards, right? They start fixing the prices, misleading advertising, wrong ads you were running. Next, product safety, environmental impact, and animal testing creates dilemmas. Product safety, environmental impact, and animal testing creates the dilemmas. Product safety, environmental impact, and animal testing creates the dilemmas. Next is human resources. Discrimination and unsafe workplaces are ethical issues. Okay. Discrimination and unsafe workplaces are ethical issues. Okay. Discrimination and unsafe workplaces are ethical issues. And finally, business responsibility. Every business function must maintain ethical practices. Every business function must maintain ethical practices. Okay. Every business function must maintain ethical practices. Right. Every business function, when we talk about, they must maintain ethical practices. The first is accounting. Creative accounting, bribery, and insider trading raise some ethical concerns. Sales and marketing, price fixing, misleading advertising, and spam challenge the ethical standards. Production, product safety, environmental impact, and animal testing created the dilemmas. Human resources, discrimination, and unsafe workplaces are ethical issues. Business responsibility, every business function must maintain ethical practices. Every business function must maintain ethical practices. What every business function must do is they must maintain ethical practices. Okay, every business function must maintain ethical practices. Human resources, discrimination, and unsafe workplaces are ethical issues. Production, product safety, environmental impact, and animal testing create dilemmas. Production, product safety, environmental impact, and animal testing create dilemmas. Sales and marketing, price fixing, misleading advertising, and spam challenge the ethical standards. Accounting, creative accounting, bribery, and insider trading raise ethical concerns. Okay, bribery and insider trading raise some ethical concerns. Okay, so creative accounting, bribery, and insider trading raise ethical concerns. Sales and marketing, price fixing, misleading advertising, and spam challenge the ethical standards. Production, product safety, environmental impact, animal testing, don't test things on animals. And then human resources, discrimination and workplace are ethical issues. Discrimination and unsafe workplaces. Okay, and finally, business responsibility. Every business function must maintain an ethical practice. Right? Every business, it's the responsibility of a business to maintain an ethical practice. Discrimination and unsafe workplaces are ethical issues. Production, product safety, environmental impact, and animal testing dilemmas. Sales and marketing, price fixing, misleading advertising, and spam challenges the ethical standards. And finally, accounting, creative accounting, bribery, and insider trading raise the ethical concerns. Now, creative accounting, bribery, and insider trading raise the ethical concerns. Then, sales and marketing, price fixing, misleading advertising, and spam challenges the ethical standards. In production, product safety, environmental impact, and animal testing create the dilemmas. In human resources, discrimination and unsafe workplaces are ethical issues. Discrimination and unsafe workplaces are ethical issues. Okay, business responsibility. Every business function must maintain ethical practices. Every business function, they must maintain ethical practices. Okay, every business function must maintain ethical practices. That is about business responsibility. Okay, human resources, there should not be any discrimination, and production, the product safety should be there, and sales and marketing, don't do any ads that are not correct. Incorrect ads you should not run. And then under accounting, creative accounting, bribery, insider trading, all that is again a ethical issue. So this is about little ethics. Ethics should be there. You should not just do just to make profits, right? You have to be ethical about your work. And in all these departments, there has been some ethical issues. Next, we look into approaches to ethics. There are two types of approaches. Okay, so we look into that, consequentialist versus pluralist. So let's look into the consequentialist approach. That is egoism and We have it here, the consequest. Yeah, perfect. So let's look into the approaches here. First, we look into the consequentialist approach. The decisions are judged by their outcomes, right? How your decision was, that is judged by the outcome. Decisions are judged by the outcome. Hello? Yes? Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Ma'am, I will revert to you back, ma'am, shortly. I'll call you back. I'll just look into that timings. Okay. Okay. Sure. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So looking at the approaches here, first we have consequentialist approach. So decisions are judged by their outcomes. That is the first thing. Second, egoism. Actions are unethical if they benefit the decision maker. So egoism means actions are ethical if they benefit the decision maker. So that is the meaning of egoism. That your actions are ethical if they benefit. So that is not the right definition. Next is utilitarianism. So what it means is decision should maximize the benefits for the greatest number, right? So decision should maximize benefits for the greatest numbers. So that is the one approach to ethics. Next is pluralism. Balance the interest of different stakeholder groups. What you have to do is you should balance the interest of different stakeholder groups. That is pluralism. And finally, stakeholder balance. Ethical decisions should minimize harm to all parties, right? Ethical decision means your the harm should be minimal to various parties. So these are the approaches to ethics. First is consequentialist. So decisions are judged by their outcomes. If the outcome is good, your decision was good. Egoism means actions are ethical if they benefit the decision maker. Actions are ethical if they benefit the decision maker. Then we have utilitarianism. This means that decisions should maximize the benefits for the greatest number. Decisions should maximize the benefits for the greatest numbers. Then we have pluralism. Balance the interest of different stakeholder groups. What we have to do is we have to balance the interest of different stakeholder groups. And then we have stakeholder balance. Ethical decisions should minimize the harm to all parties. What ethical decisions should do is they should minimize the harm to all parties. Okay, what ethical decisions should do is that they should minimize the harm to all parties. Okay, what ethical decisions should do is that they should minimize the harm to all parties. Then we have pluralism, balance the interest of different stakeholder groups. Then we have utilitarianism. It means that decisions should maximize benefits for the greatest number. Okay, decisions should maximize the benefits for the greatest number. Then we have egoism. That actions are unethical. Actions are ethical if they benefit the decision maker. Actions are ethical if they benefit the decision maker. When we talk about actions, actions are ethical if they benefit the decision maker. And then we have consequentialist. Decisions are judged by their outcomes. That whatever decision you make, its basis will be on the basis of the outcome. Its judgment will be on the basis of outcome. Egoism, actions are ethical if they benefit the decision maker, right? And utilitarianism is decisions should maximize the benefits for the greatest number. And pluralism is balance the interest of different stakeholder groups. What we should do is balance the interest of different stakeholder groups. And stakeholder balance. Ethical decisions should minimize harm to all parties. What ethical decisions should do is that they should minimize the harm to all parties. That is about ethical decisions. They should minimize the harm to all parties. Next, approaches to ethics. There's a relativist approach versus absolutist approach, right? One is the relativist approach, one is the absolutist approach. So when we talk about the relativist approach, we talk about relativism. What is relativism? It means that ethical behavior depends upon the culture and the circumstances, whereas absolutism means that some actions are always right or wrong regardless of context. Right, regardless of context, some actions are always right and some actions are always wrong. Okay. Then we have the deontological ethics. It means focuses on duties and moral values. Then we have Kant's theory. Kant's theory is about universal moral rules that guides the ethical behavior. And finally, comparing the approaches, each framework offers different solution to ethical dilemmas. Okay, everyone has their own solution. So what we have to do is just know about these in a basic sense, is that what is a relativism approach? In relativism, ethical behavior depends upon culture and circumstances. In a relativism approach, ethical behavior depends on culture and circumstances. In a relativism approach, ethical behavior depends on culture and circumstances. In an absolutism approach, some actions are always right or wrong regardless of context. Regardless of context, some actions are always right and some actions are always wrong. Okay. Regardless of context, some actions are always right and some actions are always wrong. Okay. Regardless of context, some actions are always right, some actions are always wrong. Okay. Next is deontological ethics, focuses on duties and moral values. Deontological ethics, it focuses on duties and moral values. So when we talk about deontological ethics, it focuses on duties and it focuses on moral values. Deontological ethics. Next is Kant's theory. Universal moral values guide ethical behavior. Universal moral values, what it does is it guides ethical behavior. Universal moral values, what it does is it guides ethical behavior. And next, finally, comparing approaches. Each framework offers different solutions to ethical dilemmas. Comparing approaches. Each framework offers a different solution to ethical dilemmas. Each framework offers different. So each framework is different in its own way. Kant's theory, they say universal moral rules guide ethical behavior. Deontological ethics, it says focus on duties and moral values. Absolutism says that some actions are always right or wrong regardless of context. And relativism says that ethical behavior depends upon culture and circumstance. Okay, ethical behavior depends on culture and circumstance. All right. Next is ethical framework at a glance. Okay, so now just looking everything together, here you can see at a glance here all the approaches that we have just studied. Consequential focuses on outcomes. Utilitarian, it seeks the greatest good for the majority people. Relativist, ethics depend upon context. Absolute, some things are absolutely right and wrong irrespective of contexts. So some things are correct. So it's like, see, some things are wrong in every way. Like they say, like some things are in context. Like if there's a person who's done a murder and he's done it as a response, as a self defense, right? So the context is different. He's done the same activity, but the context was different, right? And some things are wrong irrespective of context. Some things you should not do irrespective of context. So that is absolutist. Relativist, it depends upon situation to situation. Utilitarian, whatever is for good for the majority. Consequentialist depends on outcome. And then we have professional judgment. Accountants use conceptual frameworks and safeguards to resolve dilemmas. Accountants use conceptual framework. Accountants, what they use is they use conceptual framework and safeguards to resolve dilemmas. Yeah, accountants, they use conceptual framework and safeguards to resolve dilemmas. Okay, that is framework at a glance. Okay, that is framework at a glance. Okay, what is that? That is framework at a glance. So first is consequentialist. It focuses primarily on outcomes. Then we have utilitarian. It seeks the greatest good for the majority. Then we have relativist. Ethics can vary depending on context. Then we have absolutist. Ethics follow fixed universal principles. And then we have professional judgment. Accountants use conceptual frameworks and safeguards to resolve dilemmas. Accountants, what they use conceptual framework and safeguards to resolve dilemmas. Okay, what do accountants do? They use conceptual framework and safeguards to resolve dilemmas. Accountants, they use conceptual framework and safeguards to resolve dilemmas. Okay, finally, why it matters. The business case for ethics. Why is ethics important? Okay, why is ethics important? Profitability. Ethical businesses will make more profit in the long term. Corporate governance is basically strong ethics supporting effective governance and accountability. Your corporate governance will be stronger if your ethics are good. Employee motivation, employee cultures improve employee engagement and productivity. Employee cultures, they improve employee engagement and productivity. Next, investors confidence. Investors factor transparent and ethical organizations and sustainable success. Ethical behavior strengthens long-term business reputation and value. Okay, ethical behavior strengthens long-term business reputation and value. Sustainable business, ethical reputation strengthens long-term business reputation and value. Okay, what does ethical behavior do? It strengthens long-term business reputation and value. Investor confidence, investor favor transparent and ethical organizations. What do investors do? They favor transparent and ethical organizations. Employees will also be motivated in an organization that is ethical. Corporate governance is strong ethics, support effective governance. Profitability, ethical businesses should build trust and improve long-term performance. Ethical businesses should build trust and improve long-term performance. What should ethical businesses do? They should build trust and they should improve long-term performance. What should ethical businesses do? They should build trust and improve long-term performance. Corporate governance, strong ethics and should support effective governance. Employee motivation, ethical cultures improve employee engagement and productivity. Investor confidence, investors favor transparent and ethical organization. Sustainable success, ethical behavior strengthens long-term business reputation and value. Okay, ethical behavior strengthens long-term business reputation and value. Investors favor transparent and ethical. Investors are more confident in a company that has good ethics. Employee motivation is strong in a company when there is good ethics. Corporate governance is stronger when there are good ethics. In the long term, a company is more profitable if there is good ethics. So ethics definitely helps in the all-round development and all-round growth of an organization. Investors are more satisfied, they are more confident, employees are more motivated, there's better governance, there's more profitability, there's a sustained success. Finally, okay, this is just like a summary of everything that we've studied. Is that ethical decision making? That ethics should guide every decision. So your every decision should be guided by ethics. There is a professional responsibility as an accountant that you should uphold the ethics. All the stakeholders will have a stronger trust if there's a stronger ethics. And different approaches help analyze complex dilemmas. Some approaches will help in some dilemmas in some situations. Some approaches will be helping in some situations. And overall long-term success. Ethical conduct supports a sustainable organizational success. So in the long term, if you have a strong ethics, it will help in the organizational success. So that is all about the ethics part in this particular chapter. So it's pretty theoretical, the ethics part. So all you have to do is just read 3 to 4 times and you'll see how simple and how basic it is. It's nothing that is complicated in this part. It is just a couple of